looking on the internet, the Foreign Secretary is attacking the Prime Minister, the former Home Secretary is attacking the Prime Minister, and I said, I feel I've got to get home and join in, which is what I want to do. I've also just come from a meeting in Brigg, where we did a big public meeting. Come and ask any question you want to ask of the leader of the Conservative Party. I'm doing these meetings up and down the country. I was delighted to do one in Brigg Goole because we've got to win the seats of Brigg Goole, and we've got to win Cleetorpes in order to win the next election. This meeting went extremely well, and you can imagine my relief that no one asked me about Sir Reginald Sheffield's wind farm. But one serious point from where I've come, having spent 2 days in Pakistan, before that I spent a day in Afghanistan with our troops. And I have to say, although it is the third time that I've been, every time you go, you just feel even more strongly that the dedication, the courage, the professionalism of our armed forces is just second to none, and it makes you incredibly proud to be British. I stood there in Sangin, which is a platoon house in a town up the Helmand River that 2 years ago was under continual attack, and it would have been impossible to visit. And I stood there and talked to the brave men of the Royal Irish Regiment, many of them from Northern Ireland, many from the south, who have been doing a fantastic job, and to meet with those people and see what they do in 45-degree heat, being attacked from all sides, is just absolutely magnificent to see the professionalism, the courage that they have. And one of the things I'm absolutely determined is that if we win that next election, that we have got to do more for our troops. Always say if. It is up to the voters. I never take anything for granted. If. We must do more for those troops and for their families and make sure they get a better deal for all that they do for us. What I wanted to say tonight is just to say, look, I think this is a great time to be a Conservative. I think we have had some real successes this year. I think of the local elections when we got 44% of the vote. I think of that London mayor election when Boris Johnson did such a brilliant job to win in one of the most multiracial, diverse, cosmopolitan, metropolitan cities in the world is now run by a London mayor, by a Conservative mayor. I have to say, Boris hasn't lost his sense of humour. You could see that from the Olympics. When David Davis told me about his decision to have a by-election, the very next day Boris rang me and said, David, I've got some bad news for you, I'm afraid. I'm going to resign as Mayor of London and fight myself. You can imagine my relief when I found out he was joking. So I think we have had a very good year. Those local elections, the London mayor election, and of course that Crewe and Nantwich by-election. I'm the first Conservative leader for about 30 years to have actually won a seat straight off Labour in a contest like that. And it was a great result and shows that we can win in the north of England and in every part of our country. But what I wanted to say to you tonight is that we must not be complacent. We have still got a huge task in order to win the next election. And I just wanted to say a couple of things that I think we absolutely have to do in order to secure that victory. And the first one is that we mustn't be complacent. We've got to win 120 seats across the country. We've got to win a third of the Liberal Democrat seats. I know that's not enough, but it'd be a bloody good start. We've got to do that. We've got to win in every part of the country, including places we haven't had an MP for over a decade. And it's not just that the British people would hate it if we were complacent. It's just that we need such a big swing. We need such a big earthquake to take place in British politics that we have to work for it every day, every week, every month between now and whenever the Prime Minister calls the election. And the second thing I think we have to do, to make sure we win that election, is to learn the lessons of the last few years, which is the Conservative Party does best when it's in the centre ground of politics, talking about the issues that people really care about. So yes, we'll always be a party that is tough on crime and wants to punish the criminal. Yes, we'll always be a party that wants Britain to be strong in Europe, and we don't want a European constitution, and yes, we should hold that referendum on that constitution. But we've also got to be a party, the party of the National Health Service, the party that's going to improve education, not just for a few, but for everyone in our country, who at the moment have to send their children to schools that often aren't up to the standards that they should be. That is a party, that is the party of the family, that's going to do more to help young people come together in stable relationships and support them when they do. Staying in the centre ground is absolutely vital for our success. Just a couple of other things we have to do. One is we still have to sort out some of our own stuff, as I think of it. The Labour Party, they may be killing themselves and having, I don't know, I mean, the coup they're trying to run against the Prime Minister at the moment, I almost think it's been organised by Mark Thatcher. It's been... they're so incompetent, this government, they can't even get rid of their Prime Minister. But we've got to concentrate on the things that still could cause problems for the Conservative Party. And that's why I've been so tough with my members of Parliament, said we've got to be transparent and open and accountable about the public money we spend. And that should apply in Westminster, and it should also apply in Strasbourg and Brussels. And I've said to my MEPs, unless they sign up to a really tough code of conduct, because this is public money they're spending, they can't stand next June. I don't want a few people who've been working the system to wreck the reputation of the Conservative Party and destroy it for everyone else, and I'm not going to let that happen. The next thing we've got to do is we've got to demonstrate that when it comes to the economy, we really understand the difficulties that people are finding in their lives today. Every time they fill up at the gas pump, every time they do the family shop, every time the mortgage is renewed, people are having a really difficult time. And they want to see a Conservative Party that, yes, understands that you can't change it all. There isn't some great pot of magic money because Gordon Brown spent it all, but we're going to help. We think that actually we should have a different tax system with petrol. When the price goes up, the tax ought to come down. So we share the pain with the people who are facing the difficult times. That young people do find it difficult to get on the housing ladder. So the government should have listened to our advice last October when we said stamp duty for the first-time buyer. We've got to show people we are on their side. But I think the biggest thing of all, and after this I will shut up and you can all have another drink. The biggest thing of all is this. To me, you win an election not just when you've got some snappy slogans, not just when you've got a strong team, and by the way, I think we've got a really strong team. You compare David Miliband to William Hague, it's no contest. You compare George Osborne to Adam, well, that's unfair. You compare Nancy Cameron. She'd probably do a better job. Yes, we've got a strong team. Yes, we've got good policies. Yes, we've got snappy slogans. Yes, we've hired a great team of people at central office to campaign for us. But you win an election, really, when you've got a big argument, a big idea to put before the British people. Margaret Thatcher had that big idea, that big argument, when she said our economy isn't finished, we can turn it around. If we privatise those state industries, if we cut the taxes, if we deal with the trade unions, we can turn Britain's economy around and we can show our best days lie ahead. And I think we need to make the same argument, yes, about the economy, but also about our society. Because I think in so many ways, we've now got a broken society in Britain. Not just rising inflation, but rising crime. Not just problems with the trade unions, but problems with antisocial behaviour. And it's that people want us to deal with. And not to say social decline and rising crime and family breakdown and teenage pregnancy and all these problems are just irreversible and we're just on a slow decline downwards. To say we can change these things. Not through government lecturing people or pretending it's got all the answers, but by trying to create what I call a more responsible society. Saying to families that actually if you stay together, you should get a tax break for marriage. You should have a benefit system that rewards couples rather than making it pay to actually separate. Saying to head teachers, if you want to run a tough school and have strong discipline, you should be able to exclude pupils without having them thrown back into the classroom by an appeals panel. Saying to the police, we'll tear up the paperwork if you get out on the streets and exercise responsibility and arrest people when they're doing wrong. Saying at every level of society, we want a more responsible society. We will give people back power and control over their lives. People who've trained to be teachers, doctors, nurses, they've got a vocation. They're fed up with being told what to do. They just want to exercise discretion, use common sense, and do the job they love. That's the sort of government I want to lead, where everything is about making our society more responsible, giving people more power and control over their lives, recognising that the family is the most important welfare state we've got. It's going to be a hugely difficult job. If we win that election, we're going to inherit a bankrupt treasury, a very depressed country, and we're going to have huge problems to deal with. But I think now more than ever, we've got a Conservative Party absolutely united in doing that job. We've got a fantastic team of leaders in our Parliament. We've got a great series of council leaders and councillors up and down the country fighting for Conservative values wherever they are. We've got a great campaigning machine, and we've got a government that is absolutely run out of steam, run out of ideas, and at the next election, we have got to do everything we can to run them out of office. And I think this time we can do it. Thank you.